What's going on YouTube? Smolder here with another tier list, keeping with the theme of all my tier lists lately have been either FromSoft games or Souls-like games or something like that. But this one's going to be a little bit different. It's not a boss tier list or ranking the games. Going back to Elden Ring, let's go ahead and rank all of the legacy dungeons. Because the legacy dungeons are more akin to the more intricate layouts and things like that of the older Dark Souls games and things like that, which is fantastic. So I thought it'd be kind of cool. I was searching through Tier Maker to see if there was anybody who had made a tier list, with all of this kind of stuff. And there's really only one that's kind of missing. It looks like on this list, and I'll talk about it when I kind of finish. This one has the DLC included. Okay. So what are the kind of the criteria for how I'm going to be ranking the dungeons? Obviously, aesthetics, cool factor. Does it look cool? Does it feel cool? The enemies and the enemy variety, the types, things like that, that's going to matter. And I'm trying to decide if I want to implement like the boss of the dungeon really as a factor as well. I don't think so. I don't want to add the boss because the boss is after you've already completed the dungeon, and that's just its own thing. But the regular enemy variety will kind of go into account. But a lot of it's going to be mostly aesthetics. How does it feel? How does it feel navigating through the dungeons? Let's start off with the first one. Stormvale Castle. I want to say, actually, let's not do that. Let's do Castle Morn first. Only because that's the Weeping Peninsula, right? And it is the first... It really should be the first dungeon you do. I'm going to give Castle Morn a C tier. Here's why. I think it's middle of the road, and this is in comparison to all the other dungeons, or in just even comparing it to other FromSoft games. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's just serviceable, middle of the road. The layout's pretty standard-ish. The enemies are pretty standard-ish, but it's also the first dungeon, really. So there's not much to expect. It's not this grandiose type deal or anything like that. It's this rundown castle that's kind of like they're at war, they're being invaded or whatever. You got the weird harpy men looking things, and then you got the soldiers of the castle battling each other, but then obviously they all aggro you and whatnot. But it's all right. Typical castle kind of deal. It's okay. It's not too big. It's not too small. That's why I think it's middle of the road. Stormvale Castle. This is the first one that you're going to encounter, like the first major one, right? There's the first major story boss before, which you have Margit, and as well as the final boss of the dungeon, being Godric. This is Dark Souls in Elden Ring, right? Playing through Stormvale Castle, I felt like I was playing Dark Souls. It was there's no open world. There's all the shortcuts, the pathways, the interconnecting weaving of the castle. It's got elevation. It's got depth. There's the flat plane. There's the lower plane. There's the higher plane. There's all the extra stuff. Then there's the side stuff that, it's all optional. I think Stormvale Castle is incredible. You can run through this very quickly if you just want to get through Godric. Yeah, there's the underground stuff where you're going to, which is extra. There's all the other side stuff inside the kitchen and all of the mess hall and all that. That's all extra. If you want to go fight it's kind of probably a lot of people's first Crucible Knight as well. That's there. There's the enemy variety, So like back at Castle Morn, you really only had the soldiers and the little weird harpy little dudes. Grant, I know there was some of the blobs. I think there was some rats. But I mean, okay. There's one pumpkin head dude early on, one couple dogs, whatever. Stormvale Castle, man, you got the Falcons, you got the soldiers, you got the beefy soldiers, the elites, you got regular exiles, you got archers, you got dogs, you got whatever the weird big dudes are, and you got a giant. There's a giant in there right before Godric. You also have one of the big wolf, not wolf things. He's like the big lion dude that's got the things. It's on the way to the Lindell tower. That's connected to it. For after you beat Godric, there's the shortcuts opening the castle gate. You have all the stuff. You have the things inside. Oh yeah, there's one of those weird little stabby dudes in the mess hall area. Dude, Stormvale Castle is legit. It is an absolutely incredible experience as like the first major dungeon of the game. So now, which is really weird, I'm trying to do it like in order. They don't have it in order. They have Volcano Manor next. I feel like the next major one is either going to be Caria Manor or Alea Lucaria. Let's do Caria Manor first. So Caria Manor, I think, is a solid B. I want to put it lower because I hate the fingers. I hate the fingers. You're just walking along and just grabs you and shit. No. Screw this place. But it is a very short dungeon. I also really don't like the invisible ghost spirit soldier dudes that appear in that section as well. But there's a lot of cool stuff in this dungeon. You have the Sword of Night and Flame or whatever the hell it's called. You have the flowing whip thing. Aside from the hands, there's actually some pretty cool enemies. You have one of the Carian giants. You have, a lot of regular, like, chump mobs, but you have, like, some giant wolves. I don't know. I think there's a lot of great monster variety. The place has a lot of extra stuff, but it's not a very big dungeon, which is nice. This is kind of like the Castle Morn to Stormvale Castle. This is what Castle Morn is to Stormvale Castle. Caria Manor is to basically Alea Lucaria. But it's better. I don't know. It looks cool. It's aesthetically cool. It's kind of in gloom, dim lit. It's just screw the hands and fingers. Okay, let's do Alea Lucaria next. I'm going to give Alea Lucaria an A as well, but it's behind Stormvale. I don't think it's as good as Stormvale Castle, but I do still very, very much like this dungeon because it has, one, there's a lot of depth in this dungeon and has a lot of extra stuff to it. I mean, you can also warp from here all the way to Volcano Manor, which is cool. I remember I found that on accident in my original playthrough, which in subsequent playthroughs you find out it through patches. Patches tells you about it, if you do all that. But that's cool. I mean, you can go all the way down there with the water wheel thing. There's the whole area with like the zombie dudes that come out of the ground. Then you go all the way into the upper ramparts of Alea Lucaria. You go into when you fight I will include the Red Wolf of Radagon into it because it's like a midway boss, and he's a really easy boss, but I think it's cool. I think it's very fitting to the dungeon. There's actually secret walls here. There's a lot of magic. I think it's cool. I think there's a lot of hidden stuff here, as well as it being not overly difficult, but it's still puts up a challenge. There's a few areas that are, in my opinion, are maybe a little bit annoying. So there's the one room. It's right after you get to. It's like when you're about to fight the first. I think it's the only time. There's the warrior jars, dude. There's like 5 of those glintstone sorcerers, all right there. They're just all shooting you. That room sucks. But hey, that room sucks. And then some of the areas when you're in the upper rampart area on the rooftops can be pretty bad with a lot of the flying. I don't know what the mobs are called, they get the cage helmet, but they got wings, and then they go on the ground, and then they start like having a spasm, and then you start spinning all around. There's a lot of those dudes, you know. But again, I like Rey Lucaria because I love the setting. I love it that it's like at nighttime, and I think it's really good. Okay, so now after you do this, most people are probably going to do the ruin-strewn precipice. I think is what most people would do. So we'll go ahead and do that next. For me, this is a D. I'm giving this a D because one, I don't really think it's a my voice. I don't think it's a real dungeon, so to speak. The only things that I really like about it is the fact that you're just going up and up and up and up and up, and you can see all the way out into the world. Everything else about it, I really don't like. I hate the mobs. The mobs you just got a lot of bats. Okay, you got a bats, and then you got some like sirens. And there's some of the Hydra things in one part. I don't know. I think, personally, I wouldn't have even put this on a little list as a dungeon, but it's on here, so it's getting a D because I honestly think it's not great. Interesting they put this down here. I'm going to go ahead and do the Shaded Castle. I'm not a huge fan of the Shaded Castle, but it is going to be above Castle Morn. So the Shaded Castle is like it's an optional dungeon, but it does lead up to, I don't know, I think the boss is okay, but I don't like that there's, all the poison around the outside is like a poison moat, but there's a lot of poison on the inside. The mobs kind of suck. Especially because there's a lot of perfumers or whatever they're called. There's a lot of those guys. And then towards getting right before you fight the boss in the Shaded Castle, there's a lot of those like spirit dudes. I don't know what you call them or whatever. And there's one area, one spot, and the reward, there's like no reward, but it pops up one of those dudes that just instantly charges at you and just like has like a million hit combo and will just like insta kill you and stagger you and stun you. Because it's just like, screw you, bitch. And then, yeah, it's like right before you go up the ladder to go fight the boss of the dungeon. I don't really like it. But I am keeping it still middle of the road because I think the design is pretty decent. It's like a circular castle, essentially. You have the outer rampart walls, and then you have the inside area with the poison area, and you have like the tops of some of the buildings that you can stand on and whatnot. And there's a couple secrety areas for getting some items. And I don't know, aside from a couple of the mobs that I really hate, I actually think they're all fine. It's okay, I'm not a huge fan of poison stuff. Blight Towns can go screw itself, but here we are. Okay, so next, it has on here on this list, it has Volcano Manor. I don't want to do Volcano Manor next. I am actually going to go ahead and do, I'm going to do Redmane Castle. I feel like a lot of people probably do this in a very weird order. I'm definitely on that list because I kind of generally skip the entirety. So when I play Elden Ring now, I go through Redmane Castle when the festival's going to begin. So there's like no mobs aside from like the giant lion dudes. Get all the loot that I can. There's some of the stuff you can't do until the festival's over, or if you go there before the festival. But you can the majority of it beforehand. I think it's actually pretty cool. Some people I feel like are going to probably put the Redmane Castle lower because it's very simple. But I like being able to the whole courtyard and the inner workings of the castle. But then you can go into the towers and then climb. You can travel along the outer wall of the castle, which I think is pretty cool. I like that. I like being able to be in areas and you can access more of the castle and keep finding more things and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And then if we're talking about it when all the mobs are there, I like the lion mobs. I think they're cool. There's an iron or virgin or iron maiden looking thing or whatever the hell they call those things. There's one of those there. A lot of people don't like them. I think they're fine as long as you know how to fight them, but they can be a challenging enemy. And then a bunch of just regular mobs. I think there's like a giant as well on top of one of the towers, which is interesting. Um, so you have a wide variety of stuff. I don't know. Like I said, it's not big. It's another like pseudo dungeon because it's the main reason why you go here is obviously for the festival for Verdun. But you know, I think it's all right. I think it's decent. It's decent. And I put it above Carrier Manor because you know, it doesn't have the hands and fingers. You know. What do we want to do next? I'm trying to think of like the orders. So I am going to put next is the Siofra River. Siofra River gets an A for me. It's a low A, but it's an A nonetheless, which is pretty high on my list. But a big part of why I'm putting it high is because the first time ever in your first playthrough, you take the well down. Let's be real. If you don't have that like jaw drop awe moment in the game, come on, man, what's going on? Like, it was like an oh my god moment the very first time I played it. You know, it's, you know, there's like a whole new world down here, you know. But that's not the dungeon itself, right? The dungeon itself, if we're judging it based on like the dungeon, aesthetically though, it is badass. I absolutely love the whole aesthetic being you're way deep underground, but like because of the way the rocks is, it looks like it's actually a night sky and all the stars and whatnot, even though we know it's not. But that's what it looks like, you know. That's cool. But if there's anything I'm gonna knock it for, okay, it's the archers. And it's the first time you're really going to probably encounter the lightning balls too. Screw those things, but really screw the archers. The archers can go, you know, get them out of here. The layout's pretty simple. It's kind of just like an moving arc, and then you just kind of go out. This dungeon does have 2 bosses. Obviously, both of them are optional, but if you watched my tier list, I actually rate both of them pretty high. Yeah, this place is awesome. You know, the visuals really carry this place. It kind of has like its own like eerie music that goes along with it too. A lot of these zones, you know, I haven't really talked about in the other areas of the music and the ambience and things like that. But I'm kind of like all clumping that together with just like, I really like it, you know. But the Siofra River is top tier. I guess if we're going to do that, we might as well also do the Ansel River. Unfortunately, Ansel River does not get as high for me. There's a few reasons why it does not. It does have a better boss, but we're not really rating the boss. It's kind of got a lot of the same aesthetic, but there's a lot more ruins, and it's a lot more tight-knit, a lot tighter. It's smaller, but there's ants. I hate ants. So growing up, this is a weird story, but growing up, I was never afraid of spiders. I really don't care about spiders or a lot of other bugs. There are some other things that I don't like, but ants was the thing that I hated more than anything. I hated ants so much as a kid. So seeing giant ants, and you're probably going to see them for the first time here, I was like, nope, I don't like this zone. I just don't. But then you find out, I mean, they're like the easiest thing to kill. They're like joke mobs. I don't know, but the zone was, it's okay. It's decent. It's better than average, but it's definitely not Siofra, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to talk about Volcano Manor now, because we're kind of getting to that point. I personally think Volcano Manor is a D. If we're talking about the dungeon part, I love the part where you're indoors, where there's where you can't fight, where you're getting your hunt missions and all the other NPCs that are there. I love that part. I love it. I love the aesthetic. I love all of it. The actual dungeon, though, I think it just sucks. You know what? I'm actually going to give it an E. I'm giving it an E, my lowest rated dungeon thus far. There are some things that are kind of cool. Any of the parts that are indoors, which is very few, I like. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of the lava aesthetic. That's just an aesthetic I don't really like. Um, that's just a personal thing, you know. So if you like it, you know, more power to you. You know, we all like what we like. But then I'm thinking about, okay, the design, right? You kind of go down, you kind of go around, you know, and you're like all the burning buildings, and there's mobs on all the roofs and everything, and you're just like, this sucks. And then it's just more things on fire, and then you kind of go through the thing, and then you go down, and now you're just like next to lava everywhere, and there's just lava everywhere. There's a mini boss, there's just more lava everywhere, and then you know you kind of go up, and then you're kind of go into more areas, and just more lava everywhere. And I'm just like, what is this? I don't know. I didn't really like it at all. Like when I replay through Elden Ring, I essentially skip this and I do all of the contracts, so then I can just go straight to Reichard. Because I really dislike Volcano Manor that much. I really do not like it at all. But now to contrast that, let's talk about a dungeon I think is S tier. So I think Lindell's S tier. This is obviously Lindell before it goes on fire, or all of that, before we light up the tree. I think Lindell is S tier. The first time when you walk up, and it says, you know, you've entered Lindell, the capital city or whatever. I think the color scheme is amazing. The aesthetic is amazing. The gold and white, I think, is chef's kiss, incredible. I think a lot of the mobs here are cool. The music here is cool. Okay, so monster variety. You have the Marshmallow Men. You have some of the statues that do the fire thing. What else do we have? We have obviously the regular soldiers. We have the variety of the chump soldiers. We have the more elite soldiers. I think there's even some perfumers. You have an Erdtree avatar here. You have, what else do we got here? We do have some of the harpy looking dudes. If you go there, there's a lot of monster variety here, and I think it's fantastic. Yeah. It's like the music here, it's not eerie like in Siofra, right? The music here is more, I don't know, something like that, whatever. But it makes it feel grandiose. It has that grandiose feel to it, and I think it's incredible. And visually, I mean, especially when you see the solidified version of Grand Sax, this big bolt through the city. Oh my god. Incredible. And the fact you get to run on it and everything. Oh yeah, like what else are we skipping? I mean, you have the whole Colosseum thing that's there. I mean, there's some of the gargoyles, I think, are here. Incredible. Top tier. Lindell is top tier. No question. Alright, I'm not sure which order I want to talk about these. Let's go ahead and do Deep Root Depths. I think the Deep Root Depths is actually pretty good. I'm going to give it A tier. And okay, so here's why. I feel like a lot of people aren't going to like this because it is a smaller area. There's not much to it. A lot of the mobs are the ants, but you also have a lot of the ghost knights. I don't know what you call them. I have no idea. But then there's a whole section with the Crucible Knight. There's a lot of stuff going on. Then we have, obviously we go up to fight. You know, Fortis Axe is there as well. And that's obviously one of my favorite fights. You have some rune bears. I don't know, man. I'm just biased to it. I'm just biased to the zone. That's just me. I'm not going to really defend it too much because I know a lot of people are going to say this place sucks, but it's just what we're doing. I like it. Let's talk about Castle Soul. I think Castle Soul is C tier at best. It's mid. It's just mid. I'm trying to put it behind Shady Castle. And the reason why I'm putting it even behind Shaded Castle is because it's got like it has too many of those stupid invisible mobs that appear, the knights and stuff, and some of them suck. If I'm recalling, Castle Soul also starts when you first enter it. You have two of the lion dudes. I'm here, doing the animation because I have no idea what that means. Because I clearly know a lot, capo. But that's that. I don't know. And this is coming from somebody that absolutely loves frost and snow and all the ice and that kind of aesthetic. I just love that aesthetic. I don't know, man. Castle Soul, I just don't think is that great of a dungeon. That's just me. I don't think it's that great. All right. Mogwin's Palace is also... Man, I don't know. Because there actually is some great stuff about this place. You know what? I'm going to give Mogwin's Palace low B. Low B tier. Because there is a section that's actually very, very nice in Mogwin's Palace. So essentially, you're just kind of going up in a circle, like a spiral circle, if you think about the layout. And then you're circling through the outside of the dungeon, and then you're circling inside. The inside kind of sucks because you have a lot of the guys that keep coming back, but getting revived and whatnot. Vare. You got Vare here. And you have a lot of the white mask guys. I don't know. I like fighting those kind of enemies. Maybe you don't. It's just my thing. I like the blood aesthetic. I think the blood stuff is cool. And the outside is cool. I think it's like all these guys. A lot of the enemies they're worshiping, right? Obviously they're worshiping Mogwin and or Moog, whatever. I think it's legit. That's just my thing. Ooh, give me 1 second. Okay. My roommate's leaving and my DoorDash is about to arrive, so it's going to be really weird timing. Anyways. Mogwin's Castle is or palace, whatever. And plus it's also, because it's also under that, like, Seofor River, Nokron area, or whatever. It's interesting. My DoorDash driver has a very, sorry, I'm not editing this. Anyways. That's that. All right. So what's left in the base game? You really have 2 places left. There's really only... Oh, no. I totally forgot. Okay, it's on this other side. So let's talk about Nokron. Nokron is S tier. It's just what it is. Nokron is S tier. It's got the ambiance. It's got the visuals. It's got the enemy variety. I mean, you can say what you want about mimic tiers and as enemies, mimic enemies. It's got it all. But I mean, that first time when you go down to get the black knife, right? That's what you get down there. You see the giant skeleton thingamajiggy. That whole area. The visuals is just like. Sorry, I just smacked my mic arm. It's so good. It is just so good. I can't. But here's the thing. This thing does not have... They don't have Noxtella on here, which is very sad because I think Noxtella is better than Nokron. I think Noxtella is better than Nokron. Anyways. Maybe they were trying to count that as Ansel River along with that thing, but, it is what it is. But Nokron is still S tier. It's still S tier. Visuals, aesthetic, enemy variety type, I like. I am a huge fan of that stuff. Of the mimic type enemies. The balls are cool. Who doesn't like balls? I mean, I'm trying to think actually, are there balls in Nokron, or is that Noxtella? I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Lake of Rot can go piss off. I think this is probably the worst area in the game. One of the worst areas in the game, like by far. Like there's a huge gap. I'm putting it F tier because I don't even want to put it next to Volcano Manor. Lake of Rot is shit. The whole outside area of Lake of Rot is absolute shit. There's like nothing out there except more basilisks, and then there's the random dragonkin boss. Then you go in the inside. When you finally make it to the inside, right? There's just a bunch of those stupid crawly dudes that shoot the needles and whatnot, and those enemies suck ass. Like, what are we doing, man? This place just sucks. Lake of Rot sucks. Unfortunately, it's needed to be able to get to some of the cooler areas in the game, so, you know, it is what it is. Ferrum Azula is also S tier, but it's behind Nokron, which would be... So I would put Noxtella above Lindell at this point in time. But that's just me. It would actually be my favorite zone. But Ferrum Azula is also S tier. Its visuals is stunning. I mean, you have literal, like, tornadoes just flying all over the place. You have dragons everywhere, but you also got undead skeletons. You have, you know... You got a lot of cool mobs, man. I think the layout's cool. It does have one of my least favorite, like, little gauntlet runs in the entire game. But... And that's the part when you have the stupid-ass falcons, and then you have the one dragon that shoots down the lightning the whole time. That area sucks. But aside from that, I think this place is cool. You finish a quest line here with an NPC. You know, Alexander. There's a lot of, like, hidden stuff. I mean, you have a Crucible Knight here. I think it's really cool. I love the aesthetic, aside from just the tornadoes, but I like the architecture of the buildings, you know. And this place has multiple bosses. I think 3 bosses. You have Godskin Duo. You have, obviously, Dragonlord Plasudasax. And you have Malekith, which are, like, 2 of my favorite bosses in the whole game. But those guys decide, you know. I just think this place is badass. Trying to move along, because this video is going long. Next would be Alphael. Alphael is also S tier. But it's... behind Lindell. Is it though? Yes. Okay. I'm going to put it behind Lindell only because there's a whole... The bottom area of Alphael is trash. Because there's just so many of those mobs that I talked about. That there's that one that's in the Shaded Castle. You know, that they just come out of the ground and then they just, boom, charge you and just like... you know, instantly kill you kind of thing. Screw those guys, and they're just everywhere and down that whole stretch on the bottom. And then there's the other area, which is kind of cool, right? There's the I'm trying to think of what's there. I can't remember. There's the elite guy with the bow and the elite guy with the sword. But then there's on, like, to the side and on, like, on a ledge, there's some archers that have the ballista and whatnot, but you can clear them out. There's a lot of cool enemies. There's a lot of the Clean Rot Knights, right? There's a lot of those guys there. I actually think they're really cool enemies. You know, you have an Erdtree avatar here. The visual place, it's like, so this entire dungeon is almost, it's like the side of a castle, but it's because it's built on the side of the tree. It's like built in on the side of the tree, so it's all kind of like the entire dungeon is like ramparts. You know, kind of visually. I think it's really, really cool. I love it. I love the ambient music and the sound that goes along with this place. I think it's incredible, and it's visually very similar to Lindell in terms of, like, the color scheme and everything too. So obviously you can tell what I like when it comes to the colors. I'm a huge fan, obviously, of the white and gold, as well as, like, the deep purple, blue, night sky stuff as well. All right, we're into the DLC. We're moving on. We're moving along. Let's talk about Bellarat. Bellarat is a solid B, but I'm putting it down at the bottom of B because scorpion spiders can piss off. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Otherwise, I think it's a very well made dungeon. There's multiple shortcuts, as well as there's a large enemy variety. Obviously, you have the scorpion spiders. It's the first time you're going to really encounter the elite guys with the twin swords. I think they're a really cool enemy. And you have the birds. You also encounter the fly men. Oh god, too disgusting. Castle Ensis. Castle Ensis, I think it's like a high B. I think it's pretty nice. Obviously, this is the where you going to encounter Rellana. Rellana. Yeah. Anyway, that's the one you're going to encounter here. This place is all right. It's decent. It's above average. There's no real flaw to this place. Nothing too much that stands out. And I think for me, this is where I have a huge problem with the DLC, with a lot of its color scheme and like color palette, really. Because I'm going to go ahead and skip. Actually, no, I will do Fort of Reprimand. This place is very small. It's just a super tiny little dungeon-y thing, and it's average. Color palette feels very similar to Castle Ensis. Shadowkeep. So Shadowkeep is actually going to get top A tier. And the reason why is because, well, it's massive. It has multiple entrances. It has multiple exits. You have the church wing. You have, like, the library section. You have the outdoor castle section. So I think that makes Shadowkeep really, really cool. But when it comes to color scheme, it's same as Castle Ensis. Same as the Fort of Reprimand. I don't know. I think the coolest part was the church wing, because you have to deal with lowering the water and all of that. I thought that was like a really cool concept that I felt like Souls game hasn't really utilized, even though it's pretty common in a lot of games. But that's just me. So then, let's talk about Midra's Manse. I think it's average at best. I'm going to put it above. I'm going to make it high C tier. It's honestly a very small dungeon that comes after, in theory, a really cool zone, but in practice, a bad zone, because you can't use Torrent. Yeah. Abyss Woods, I don't know. All right, last zone. Anir Ilum is very, very similar to Fair Missoula, Alphael, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to keep it, though, in A tier, but it's top A tier. As I just recently talked about, I'm very biased against that kind of color scheme. I really, really like it. And it connects to Belarus, which is actually pretty cool. I'm surprised that they didn't put some of the other areas, because blah, 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 blah. Maybe they were just too small and they didn't want to put them in here. But the right before you go and fight the putrescent knight, the tombs or whatever, the big coffins and all that. Anyway, this is my tier list. I didn't want it to go on too long, so I stopped kind of like talking about certain things, because hopefully by the end of this video, you guys realize what I'm biased towards, what I don't really like, and things like that. But a lot, if you look at it, the overwhelming majority of all the legacy dungeons, in my opinion, are at least, there's a huge chunk up here, guys. I think Elden Ring does a fantastic job with it. There's a couple things down here, can't get them all, Anyways, guys, leave comments down below what you think, how you'd rate these dungeons, where you would rank them, how you disagree or agree with me. Interaction helps. And I also love the interaction. I love, talking and commenting back with you guys. Hit that like and subscribe. It helps. If you want to see more videos, I'm going to be doing more from the other games. All right. Thanks for watching.